Are you seriously going to eat, you fat blibbity blabbity blob?
I mean, some of you might be like,
Continue.
why would I want to start this?
Sensitive. She's sensitive.
You are listening to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast, where we share stories that are, you guessed it, unscripted.
That's the thing, this journey doesn't stop.
It doesn't really
right?
end. We have a general sense of the topic each episode, but really the whole point is just to show up and be authentic and let our inner child speak its truth. And I have continued to work through that story of constantly hearing, well, we don't want, got a hot dog on our hands. Yeah, guess what, Mr. Sabatsky, you do. So I'm so excited that you are here, and it is my hope that you hear yourself somewhere in the story so that way you can feel seen and heard as well. So let's start talking. Welcome to the Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. Take 2. Yeah, that's right. I just realized I recorded an entire episode, about an hour's worth, and never hit record. So here we are, take 2. But I always trust when those things happen. So rather than getting frustrated and beating up on myself, it's like just ground yourself and hit record and trust that whatever message comes through this time is the message that's meant to come through. But it also kind of made me chuckle in a sense, in a sarcastic chuckle, because when I first hit record, I probably started and stopped like 3 or 4 times, which is not like me. And so then when I actually went to hit record, I didn't hit record. So like, maybe you should just trust yourself the first damn time. So that's what I got out of that. But anyway, welcome to today's Tami Talks Unscripted Healing Podcast. And I'm going to start off, I'm just going to get right to it because I've already done the whole dilly-dally spiel and the other one that you'll never hear. And then I want to start off with a question. And have you ever wondered how many invitations you've received in your life, not invitations to RSVP and go to some cool parties and things like that, but invitations to become more of who you are? How many of those have you denied? How many of those have you missed? How many of those have you deliberately ignored? How many of those have you slammed the door on? Because this morning at church, the message was about the shepherds. Just ordinary people living ordinary lives who happened to receive a very unexpected invitation from angels to go see a baby lying in a manger. Huh, okay. It's a little out there, right? They weren't given a map. They weren't promised certainty. Honestly, they probably had a lot of questions about what they were going to find if they set out on this journey. And yet, by faith, they went. And that message today just made sense of everything else that had happened all throughout the week to confirm this message. And it made me ask myself, where in our lives are we still waiting for an invitation when God, our soul, our inner child have been inviting us all along? Yeah. And are we responding with faith or the fear of the unknown? Or maybe even the comfort of what feels familiar? And so again, once I heard this message, I was like, okay, everything throughout the week made sense. Because I realized how those same invitations were all around me in so many different ways. And that's how today's podcast all came about. And speaking of invitations, going back to church was an invitation in itself. And I actually received 2 invitations this last week to go to this specific church, which I have never been. And that alone made me curious to be like, okay, I haven't been back to church in a while. And when I get repeating messages, oftentimes I know that's some sort of sign or that's some sort of message, and that perhaps there would be a message there for me today. And sure enough, there was, because it helped pull together all of these other little messages I had been receiving all throughout the week, which then confirmed that this was the message that I was supposed to be sharing with all of you. And that these shepherds just had the courage to move. They didn't overthink. They didn't delay. They didn't require proof like, nope, I need to see exactly what's at the end of this. I need to make sure you angels are legit. They just moved with faith, right? They trusted what they felt. They couldn't deny it. I mean, think about that message. How ridiculous does that seem? And so sometimes when we think about our own goals and our own dreams, it's like, that's ridiculous. That's a little too far out there. Really? What if you were told to go find a baby in a manger? And you just trusted that. And you just went. You just had such faith and you listened to that nudge, that pull to move forward, to go with faith, with curiosity, with wonder instead of fear. And so what I want you to be asking yourself throughout today's podcast is, where am I being invited? Where am I being invited to go? What is keeping me from moving? And am I choosing faith or am I choosing familiarity? Those are the questions that I want you to anchor into throughout this episode. Because when I get downloads like this, where it's just all throughout the week and then they all come together like this, like I said, I have to trust that this is meant for you. Whoever is here, whoever is pressing play this message, there's something in here for you. Trust that. Just like me going to church today, I just trusted that there was a message in it for me. And I had to take myself out of it. Obviously, I said I hadn't been back to church in a while, so I was coming in with my own reservations, and I had to put that down. I had to let my guard down, and I just had to allow myself to be open to receive whatever I was meant to receive today. But these messages, these invitations came in these really small moments, in these conversations, in just stories that popped up throughout the week, through Instagram reels, through quality time with Arlo. And in today's message, he started off by sharing this story about when he was a little kid. And I was like, already I'm into this. Like, all right, you're going to talk inner child stuff. Let's go. But he was talking about how as a kid, he was into, all the standard kid stuff. But then somewhere between like 10 and 11, he got really interested in sports cars and would just read about them and all the different makes and models and how fast they could go and all this stuff. And he was just fascinated by them. But yet there were no sports cars in his current reality. He lived in Tennessee and no one that he knew owned a sports car like that. He had never even seen one in his real life. And so it seemed like this far out there thing that was just this figment of his imagination, right? But then all of a sudden, a new neighbor rolls into town with this sweet Corvette. And all of a sudden, what was once this far out there idea, this dream, was right there in his reality. Like, whoa, this is real? People actually own these things? People actually drive these things? And he stayed open and he stayed curious and he got to know this neighbor and he would help out with his dog. And then one day he received the invitation to get in this car and go for a ride. And he even said he had this moment of like, are you talking to me? Me? Like, you're asking me to go in this car and go for a ride? This car that I have dreamed about? You're asking me? But he didn't say, no, I'm not worthy enough. I'm not good enough. I probably shouldn't. I got things to do, kid stuff to do back home. I got chores and I got this and that. And he's like, hell no, he sees that opportunity and he got in the freaking car. And he lived out that little boy dream of being in a sports car. And he allowed himself to be in that moment and to feel it and to know that it was real and that it was possible. And I was just like, oh, yes, like this is what this is all about. And then all of a sudden, all of these other things started ping, ping, ping that I had heard earlier in the week. So stay tuned. But I just love that as he just accepted the invitation. Because how many times have we maybe received an opportunity, not even just in our physical lives, but an opportunity to step in who you truly are. But your imposter syndrome, your fear of success or your fear of failure or whatever it was kept you from stepping into who you are and stepping on stage or stepping into whatever it was because your ego was like, yeah, I don't know if we're quite worthy enough for that. I don't know if we could really pull that off. I don't know if we're that consistent. We're kind of scattered or whatever it is. And it comes up with all these excuses and reasons why you shouldn't get in the car. When God's like, yo, I just pulled up the Corvette that you've been asking for your whole damn life and you're not getting in? What? So then it drives by. That dream that you have had, you just watched it drive by. That relationship you wanted, you just watched it drive by. Whatever it was, like, oh my gosh. I just was sent exactly what I had been asking for and I just watched it drive by. Shit. How do I get it to come back? Right? Like now it's almost harder. Like, oh my gosh. So that's the whole other point of this. Like, are you going to be ready when that invitation comes? Are you doing the work now so that way you can step into that car and sit in that car and enjoy that ride? When it's time, when that invitation comes, are you so caught up in your current reality that you're going to miss it altogether and that car's going to go right by you? And it might even stop and be like, hey, get in. You're like, no, sorry. And then all of a sudden you see it drive by, you're like, oh my gosh, that was my dream car. That was my dream partner. That was my dream whatever. And I just watched it drive by. Whew. That's some regret you're going to sit with. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live with that. And if I have to go chasing down that damn car, I'm like, get back here. Now I realize. I see it now. Come back. All right. Well, then you do the work and you take off running. And you go get that damn thing. But man, I loved that analogy because so many times we see life, opportunities, invitations just driving right by when they are the exact things we have been asking for and praying for and hoping for, and that your inner child has always wanted, but your ego has put on these blinders and you can't even see it. And so that's part of this work, is this invitation to look within, this invitation to go deeper, this invitation to do the healing work so that way you're ready when that opportunity comes in. When that person, whoa, this is who I've always been asking for. This is what I've always wanted, and it's right here. How do I not F this up? Right? But sometimes we can get caught up in what is so logical that we miss out on the magic of what God is trying to create for you. Like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't look right on paper. That can't be right. We're too different. I would have to move across the country, whatever it is. And like, yeah. That's the whole point, is that we're defying logic. Because I think that's part of the point, is like God doesn't care about what looks good on paper, what makes sense to the logical mind. It's like, no, I want to see you in your full-on gifts that I gave you and living this amazing life, or knowing what true, authentic, deep love is. Not a love that looks good on paper. It doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. That career path you're taking, it doesn't need to make sense to anyone else if it's what feels right for you. If you continue to accept the invitations that I've been sending all along, it doesn't need to make logical sense. And you think about that car, how many dreams did our inner child just slowly stop believing in because we didn't see anyone else doing that same thing, living that same life, having those same relationships, right? We get so conditioned to what we know, to what we see, to what feels possible, when really your inner child has known all along that the possibilities are endless and that you deserve the world, but your ego started to dim that. It started to dial it down. It started to deny those invitations out of fear, out of protecting your inner child from losing the very thing that he or she has always dreamed of. And this ties into one of the earlier messages I received this week, when a girl at my gym came up to me after a workout, and I could tell she was like feeling emotional. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I know I pushed you, but geez. And she thanked me. She thanked me for inviting her to my workout party and to our little dance party and get together beforehand. And with the most sincere eyes and the most sincere and genuine energy, she thanked me, and her inner child thanked me. And she said, I don't have a lot of friends here and don't get a lot of invitations. And I've actually never really thrown myself anything because of fear of no one coming. And so it meant a lot to me that you invited me to your party. And I was just like, oh. And I felt that with her and for her because she was me 8 years ago. That was absolutely me. I was the new girl at the gym who didn't know anybody, who felt so insecure, who had no idea how strong she was, who felt like everyone was watching her. And I remember what that felt like, of not having any close relationships here. I was a mom. I went to work. I came home. I didn't have connections outside of my marriage, outside of being a mom, and outside of being a sister and a daughter. And I will never forget the first time I was asked to grab a glass of wine one night. I was like, what? And I was sitting there with my dear friend Mackenzie, and she's listening. And we went and grabbed a glass of wine. And I just remember this moment of like, I mean, I can't even explain that feeling. It was just like, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, oh my God. Like back in freaking middle school, getting invited to a birthday party. Like, that's how this girl felt. Like, and that's how I felt. It was like, oh my gosh, people want to hang out with me. I'm getting invited to do something. And thank goodness I accepted that invite. And I didn't let my fear block me from it. This fear of like, oh, what are they going to think about me? Are they going to judge me? Anything. I didn't put any expectations on that. I just said yes. And I accepted that invitation. And Mackenzie is still one of my very best friends. And I get to see her now working out and crushing it and remembering how strong she is. And I freaking love it. But it was these little invitations and how important that was, because that one invitation led me to starting to find more and more of who I truly was, who Tami was, who the woman was. But that had to start with saying yes to one simple invitation versus staying back and staying safe and staying small, staying hidden, where it feels safe, but man, that feels lonely. And so I told her, like, I was so proud of her for accepting that invitation and coming, not knowing who was going to be there, what it was going to be like. She overcame her fear and just had faith that maybe it'll be fun. And I think she had fun. So that was like, again, the whole invitation thing. I was like, yes, like, thank you for accepting that invitation. Thank you. So that simple invitation allowed her to tend to that wound of maybe not feeling seen, not feeling chosen, maybe being overlooked or forgotten. And to know that adults still carry those things. This is a grown woman who's incredibly successful in her career. That little girl felt so seen just by getting an invitation. So yeah, those wounds are still very much there, but we can tend to those things when we accept those invitations. But we have to ask our ego to let us, because it will absolutely try to keep you safe and stuck and alone, because that's where it has the most control. So then fast forward to yesterday, I'm doing a little Instagram scroll and I see this reel, and it's a video of a woman just casually in her everyday life and her everyday clothes doing her thing. And then all of a sudden she notices another woman, but the woman is her. But it's her as her highest self. It's her doing all the things that she's always wanted to do, looking the way that she wants to look, with the energy, with the aura, everything about it was like, and then the music behind it was that song, One Way or Another, I'm gonna find ya, I'm gonna get ya one way. And she just took off running towards her. She dropped everything that she was doing. She saw her. She's like, that's her. That's me. I want that. I'm taking off. I don't care what I have to leave behind. That is who I am meant to be. And I'm going after her one way or another. I'm going to get her. And it just made me think, like, isn't that how we all should be living? Like, what if you saw her there, or you saw him and you're like, would you just stand and freeze and be like, yeah, that's not for me? Like, what? No, it actually is me. What would your response be? What would your reaction be? Would you freeze? Would you take off running and be like, that is me. That is mine. Get back here. That is the life I want to live. Peace out. But here's the thing. And what I recognize after watching that is some of us have a hard time even envisioning what he or she would look like if we were to think of our highest self living that life, that wild idea, like a baby in a manger. And how Jesus was born. Like, yeah, again, that's a pretty far out there idea. People are like, what happened? Okay, sure, I'll believe it when I see it. Right? And that's what we all want to do, is like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But it doesn't work that way. You have to have faith and trust first. You have to take inspired action first. But here's the thing is, when you have a hard time even imagining what that thing is, if you don't know that, hey, Tami, I want to be a speaker who's up on stage inspiring thousands and millions of people, or I want to be writing books and signing books. Like, if I didn't know that, it would be really hard for me to relate to that reel and to see those women. But I saw that and I'm like, ooh, but I feel like I'm in the midst of running to her. I'm running right now. I'm not standing still looking around at my everyday life. Like, what I'm doing right now is dead on sprinting to her. I feel like I'm just trying to catch up to her. Damn it, she's fast. The stupid toe injury I had slowed me down. But honestly, I look at the things that slowed me down, right? It was like, oh, wait, you gotta maybe heal some wounds because I know you want that. But if you caught up to her, you might find a way to sabotage it because you haven't healed your wound of worthiness yet. You haven't maybe healed your wound of this or that yet. And so it's like, hold up, take a little detour. Don't worry, she's still on your path. She's still there because if it is meant for you, it is never going to pass you by. You might just end up doing a few more laps around to catch up to her. And that's kind of what this last year felt like. It's like, I know she's there. I see her. I feel her. I know the ideas that I have are not random. I know that they were seeds that were planted. But I also know that I had to do some work to fully believe and trust that when I see her, like that is me. And that all came down to, again, nervous system regulation. That was the big thing this year. It was like, I felt like I had healed my worthiness wound and all of those things in the last 2 years. But this year was like, okay, great. I know you believe it. I know you're worthy of it. And you started to work on boundaries and all those things. But in your nervous system, you still got some work to do, girl. And that was the work of 2025. It was really fun. And that was when my coach called me out. She was like, you're really good at figuring things out, but you don't feel it. And I was like, F you. But she was right. And that I actually needed to feel it. And I needed to feel safe within that. Because yeah, when I see her running by, like I'm gone. I'm not letting myself stay back. But part of that is also because I've accepted that invitation to meet my inner child, to learn about her, to remember her, to remember what lit her up, what brought her joy. What did she want to be when she grew up? Well, guess what? She wanted to be an actress. But I think it's like she wanted to be on stage, but not in that way. Now, and again, if I've ever shown you my 3rd grade picture, on the back of it, it says, make sure you let everyone see me. She's like, we weren't supposed to act. We were supposed to share our story. And I need you out there. I need you to make sure everyone sees me. And here's this story. So I was like, oh, okay. So now I got to get to work and doing the things and making sure that my nervous system is healed and ready for that. So this is an invitation to also go within, to meet your inner child and to remember. Because sometimes we don't even remember. Or we feel like it's such a crazy idea that she had that you won't even allow yourself to entertain it in your current reality. Because that Corvette isn't sitting out in your driveway. So you just told yourself that it's not even possible. When it absolutely is possible. And there are people out there driving around Corvettes and sports cars. People are doing the thing that you want to do. So why isn't it possible for you? Exactly. It is. But it is all the ways that your ego has tried to protect you and telling you that it's not for you when it is for you. If you have that reoccurring thought and feeling and dream, whatever it is, then it is absolutely for you. Those are your constant invitations to step forward. But the more you stand back and just hang out like those shepherds because they were used to their normal routine, their ordinary life, like, well, this is just what we would do. Why would we accept this angel's invitation to go check out a baby that's supposed to be of some sort of significance? This life is fine. But instead, they're like, wait a second. This sounds interesting. I'm curious. Let's take off and go find out. Let's just see. And maybe that experience changed their life completely, made them believe in things that they never even thought possible. Who knows if they went back to their ordinary life? And if they did, I'm sure that they saw it much differently, saw it through a lens of mystic and wonder and whoa, what is possible? But we always have that opportunity, right? Sometimes we see it, sometimes we dip our toe in and then, we still go back to what's familiar. Again, like the damn boots from a few weeks ago when I went right back to the thing that gave me pain. Nope. But just like these women ran towards their future self with this sense of urgency, like, I've got to get to her. I've got to find her some way. Those shepherds did that same thing with that light. Like, okay, let's go. They didn't stop there and debating it and wondering and overthinking it and all these things. Like, they just took off. They just trusted. They had that faith. And that's what this is asking for all of us to do. Is what if we ran to that version of ourselves without doubting her? Which leads me to my next little segment that ties into this is last night, Arlo wanted to draw the Abominable Snowman. And so we pulled up a picture on the computer. And this is a very healing thing for me as well, in that I can draw. I can draw when I see the picture in front of me, and I will translate what I see in front of me onto paper pretty damn close. It looks exactly like what I'm seeing in front of me that someone else created. I can draw that to a T. And so when Arlo tried to do that exact same thing, he was getting frustrated because his didn't look like that. He kept messing up. And I just said, Arlo, what if you just create your version of the Abominable Snowman? You can look at that and let it inspire you, but what if you create your own Abominable Snowman? So he kind of looked at me, and then he got quiet, and he just took off drawing. And I'm finishing coloring my Abominable Snowman. And I will put the pictures, if I can get them on this video, I will. And for those of you that are listening, I'll try to post it somewhere on social media so you can see the drawings. But then all of a sudden he gets done, and I look at his, and I was like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. It was amazing. It was so clear what the life lesson was here. And that his version was uniquely his. It was so much more creative. It was so much more alive. It had so much more detail. It was so much more unique. Whereas mine looked like every other Abominable Snowman. It looked like the Abominable Snowman from Rudolph and every figurine and everything you've ever seen on the computer. Mine looked exactly like everyone else's. Arlo's looked unique to him. We weren't created to replicate what we see. We were created to interpret what only we can see. Let me say that again. This is important. Maybe I can remember what I said. We weren't created to replicate what we see. We were created to interpret only what we can see. Only what God planted within you, in your heart, and in your soul. That's why you can still go do the things that other people are doing. You can go be the speaker. You can be the author. You can be the musician. You can be the artist. You can be the consultant. You can be the whatever, because it's uniquely you. It's what only comes from you and your soul. No one else can replicate that. And if they try, they're going to fail miserably. Because what Arlo created was so cool. It was so unique. And so sometimes we just have to have faith that when we go within, when we trust our intuition, when we trust our own creative abilities, amazing things can happen. The magic can happen. But when we try to do it the way everyone else is doing, we lose that. And it makes me think back to this whole shepherd thing is they didn't go to some magical, perfect palace to see this baby. They went to a manger. It was nothing like the picture they probably imagined, right? But what was there was so beautiful and pure and magical in itself. And so getting out of this expectation of what we think we're supposed to find at the end of this and just let it be, whatever it's supposed to be, whatever we are meant to create, and trust that. So this podcast isn't about fixing your inner child. It's about meeting them. It's about accepting this invitation to go within. And if that invitation feels threatening in any way, ask yourself why. What are you afraid to find? Because after doing this work, I feel that same kind of excitement and energy and curiosity and wonder like those women did who saw themselves. And they just wanted to take off running. If everyone knew how healing and powerful inner child work could be, they would take off running. They wouldn't hesitate to go find him or her. They wouldn't wait. They wouldn't leave them stranded. They wouldn't leave them abandoned. They would take off and be like, I am going to find her. If they knew that she was the key, that he was the key to all of their triggers and their frustrations and downfalls and self-sabotage, wouldn't you take off running and be like, if you got the answers, girl, I'm coming. And she does. He does. They know exactly why you hold yourself back. They know all of the hopes and dreams that you had. They know all of the emotions that you never allowed them to feel and how to feel them, how they wanted to be held, how they wanted to feel seen and heard and unconditionally loved. They have all of the answers. So why aren't you taking off and running towards them? And the answer is because your ego is afraid. It's your ego. It's that protective ego that still thinks that they know best and that they need to protect little you from those things. So that's where big you has got to show up. It's like you're that angel being like, yo, I'm inviting you to go check out this amazing thing. And then you just go. You don't question it. You don't doubt it. You just go. Because you know whatever you're going to find down there is going to have so many answers and so much healing. Unlock so many gifts and joy and happiness in your life. But if you're going to be that shepherd that just stays and hangs out and like you say this angel, like, yeah, whatever. And you get this profound message and this download and this information to you and you just like, I don't know what to do with that. This is the life that I live here. This is what I do every day. So this disruption, not super convenient. So I'm just going to go back to living my life the way that I was living it. Again, that angel's like, okay, I guess you do you. But if you went on this journey, it could be life-changing. And so I'm so proud of all of you that are still listening to this podcast because every week this is your invitation to go within. Every week this is your invitation to figure out a little bit more of who you are or what your inner child has been trying to tell you, what your highest self already knows that you're capable of. But I think about this, and I actually had someone incredibly close to me tell me that they stopped listening to my podcast because it was too hard. And I wasn't offended at all. I knew exactly why it was too hard. And it made me sad for them because I know the life that they're living and it isn't in alignment. It is one based on comfort, familiarity, sense of stability, keeping the peace, and a massive fear of change. And so, yeah, pressing play on this podcast is going to put a giant mirror to your face. And every week it's an invitation to step into yourself and to who you are and what lights you up and what brings you joy. And then when you do nothing with it, that hurts. Your inner child is like, what? You're not going to do anything with what you just heard? And it feels like abandonment week after week after week. So you just stop pressing play. And now your inner child is starting to lose hope. But I will tell you, they will never lose hope. They will always be there waiting for you to reconnect. Always. And they will send out that love signal to you to try to reconnect 1,000,000 times every day, all day. That just may mean that your ego is going to turn up that volume a little bit louder so that you can't hear them. And that might come from numbing and starting to emotionally binge eat or doing other things where you're completely checked out of your own life. Maybe you're turning back to substances or turning to alcohol or food or losing yourself into work or whatever it is. The volume in your life gets really loud because your ego doesn't want you to hear your inner child banging on the door and says, you know I'm in here now. You can't ignore me. And your ego is like, la, 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 la. But that's up to you to turn down the volume in your life. And that was another message that came through in church today was he said that we just live in this anti-stopping world. And isn't that the truth? We are constantly go, 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 which was hilarious. I'm using air quotes. And that right before I went to church, I actually sent a text to one of my dear friends and saying like, hey, I'm going to church. Do you want to come with me? And she responded and said, I would love to. I actually really need that right now, but I have this, this, and this, and this, and this I have to do today. But I could really use some time to unplug and just have a good cry. And I just responded, I get it. I know we have to life. And she did. Those are the things like literally had to get done today. And she couldn't just push it all aside and say, peace out, family. Like, take care of yourself. I got to go to church. So I just told her, I hope that you create time somewhere throughout your day today just to give yourself a moment to be with you and to maybe have that good cry. But that's exactly what it was, is that in this situation, she just couldn't stop. That was the whole month of November for me until I got sick and got a double eye infection. It's like, okay, now you're stopping. But we don't take that time to stop and get quiet. And that's ego's favorite form of distraction, is to keep you busy, to keep you distracted, to keep those earmuffs on, those blinders on, so you can't hear, you can't see your inner child standing there in front of you, knocking on the door. So that is also your invitation to create time and space in your life to stop, to slow down, to listen, to get curious, to accept that invitation to go within. And just know that that hesitation, it doesn't mean that you're not interested. It's just like the whole birthday thing. You think you're disinterested in your birthday or it's not a big deal, and really it's a form of protection. Just like this invitation to meet your inner child and to fully tune in and to fully embrace him or her. I know it may seem woo-woo or whatever, there's inner child work, blah. That's your ego, again, trying to find a way around it because it knows that it's the key to everything. And if you take the key and take the steering wheel, guess who doesn't have control anymore? Your ego. So it's doing everything it can to tell you these stories and these things that, oh, this is just some wishy-washy foo-foo stuff that Tammy's talking about or whatever. When yet, if we sat down and had a one-on-one, I guarantee you I could find the ways that your inner child is trying to get your attention. You want to take me up on that? Let's go. In a very loving way. But that hesitation is often protection. The distraction is protection. The detours. Sometimes the detours are purposeful and that we need to heal something along the way. But other times that's your ego taking the bus and be like, whoa, we're going to go down this street and this street and this street because we're not quite ready to go down that one yet. But then he also talked about taking that time to stop and also adore the things in our life. And so he put a picture of the whole nativity scene up on the screen and had us just look at it and adore it, to notice it, to see, where you could see God, where you could see Jesus in this and the feeling of it. And, there was this light that was just illuminating over the baby and this scene. And it made me think, when do we just take time to pause and adore? And then it made me think of something else I saw on Instagram last night. And it was someone who blew a bubble, but in these really, really cool temperatures that we're having. And the camera was just on this bubble and there was the sun behind it. And I sat there and I watched this as it crystallized, and just watching that start to spread all around that bubble and become almost like this glass little orb. And I even thought to myself, I wanted to share that in my stories and challenge people to just watch it, to not click through. I'll do that sometimes. I challenge you to take 3 deep breaths. If it's me outside and I'm wanting them to have that moment with me to stop and pause, I'll be like, I challenge you to just stop and breathe. 2 deep breaths, 3 deep breaths. Can you watch this clip in its entirety? I know there was one time there was snowfall and I just took a video, 14-second video of the snow falling. And I said, I challenge you to just watch the snowfall for 14 seconds. Can you do it? People can't do it. We are just like this. We are clicking through things so quickly, so fast. We couldn't even take a moment to pause and watch that snowfall, to watch that bubble crystallize. And so when is the last time you just truly stopped and adored something in your life? And I think about this immediately. I thought about my kids. And oftentimes I'll be looking at them, kind of like the Adam Sandler, stop looking at me, Swan. Those of you like Billy Madison, you know that reference. That's a great movie. But they'll catch me looking at them and basically say, well, why are you looking at me like that? And I just respond back I just love you. I just love you. And I think about them as a baby, when they were first put into our hands, into our arms, and we looked at them and we just stared at them. We just adored them, this perfect, pure baby. And this is honestly, I'm just going to say it. This is where I have a hard time with some of the messages from church, in that I don't believe we were born in sin. I can't look at this baby and not see anything but pure unconditional love. And I don't understand why we would be created any other way but in God's pure unconditional love. And I just see it as the sin that we do have in our life is all of the ways that ego tries to protect this pure, innocent soul. And it does things that are not okay, that hurt people, that ruin relationships, all of the ways that we sin, or all of the ways that ego was trying to meet the needs of this beautiful soul who did nothing wrong, who didn't deserve that, but it does it in ways that are hurtful. And so our job is to remove all of those things that were never us. And we're spending our lifetime trying to come back to unconditional love for ourselves, for the person that God created in that same love and light. Again, these are my own beliefs. You may unsubscribe if you would like, but I just feel that in my heart and in my soul that we were born of unconditional love. And so many of us, our journey is coming back home to that, and that God is within us. And that's why we are being called to go within, not to search outside of ourselves. It's this invitation to go within, to find God within, to find ourselves within and who God created us to be. But we can't do that if we're surrounded by all of the hustle and the bustle and the noise. And interestingly enough, Christmas is very much that, right? It's all the hustle and bustle, buying gifts and things, everything outside of ourselves. And we forgot where the true gift and magic lies. And so I ask you, when is the last time you have looked at yourself and adored aspects of who you are? You may do that for your children. You may do that when you look at nature or other things in your life. Maybe you haven't at all. Maybe this is your invitation to. But so many of us, the thought of even doing that for yourself is like, hell no. Oh, you just get super uncomfortable. I actually just had someone earlier this week tell me that they saw themselves on a Zoom recording and couldn't watch themselves. And I just said, like, how do you think that makes your inner child feel? And encouraged her to sit with that. And why? Because if you're rejecting seeing yourself on camera, it is literally your mirror saying there is a part of you that you are still rejecting. There is still a part of you that you are not willing to see. And I know that's a lot of people, right? Especially in the COVID era, a lot of us were on Zoom. I know a lot of people are like, ugh, turn my camera off. I don't want to see myself. We have to think of the message that sends your inner child. There's an aspect of you that feels like I can't show up unless I look this way. I don't want to be heard unless I sound perfectly scripted and rehearsed and say the right things. All of those are these very subtle messages that we send all the time. And again, then the whole lesson is unconditional love. And right there was a moment for her. Like, oh, I didn't even think of it like that. Like, no, we don't. It is that deep, folks. It is. And you start to catch that stuff and like, oh, and you can always apologize. You can always reframe. You can always reparent. So yeah, you're going to mess up. You're going to slip up. Absolutely. But there is always an opportunity to come back home to self, to say you're sorry to your inner child. Like, I'm sorry that I rejected you in that moment. I'm sorry that I let ego take over and replay some of those old messages again. I've had to apologize 1,000,000 times to my inner child for all the times that my ego has still gotten in the way. It still made her feel small. And it's constant daily work to stay in that energy. But can you find something about yourself that you adore? And if you can't find it for yourself right now, can you close your eyes and imagine your inner child and find something that you adore within them? Like, I can close my eyes and I can absolutely adore that zest for life that little Tam Tam had. That she was so expressive, joyful, playful. I can absolutely look at her and adore that about her. But then that's up to me to bring that back out in her if that is a part of me that I have silenced, that I have suppressed, that I have rejected out of fear of seeming too much. Hell no, not anymore. Never again, not for her. But this adoration requires stillness, and healing requires you to notice. We have to slow down and stop so you can notice where you might still need healing. What is keeping you from running after that life that you've always wanted? And again, it might be because you still need to go back and open up that basement door and get your inner child out of there and say, come with me, let's go. Because that's really what this last year has been about, is getting rid of all of these things that no longer serve us, the things that are holding us back, the roadblocks, the old wounds, the old stories, all the old conditioning. This year was the year of shedding all of it. It was the year of the snake, and now we're in the year of the horse. It's momentum, it's go, it's fast forward motion. I don't know about you, but I'm getting on that horse and like, giddy up, let's go. And I'm taking her with me. I want her to come with me in everything that I'm doing, because I will never lose sight of her again, never abandon her again. And if I bring her into everything I'm doing, oh, I know the possibilities are endless, because I know that she's the one that dreams big and believes that anything is possible and has no fear to go after it. That's the gift that your inner child can bring. But we have to allow ourselves to tap into that energy. You have to accept that invitation to go within. And so I want you to go back to that Corvette. What is that thing that you have been dreaming about your whole life, that you have been asking for, praying for? And maybe it's something new. Maybe it's something that you've just actualized, realized in your adult life. No, I really want that. I deserve that. Even if I've never seen it, even if I've never seen another healthy relationship in my life, I know that I want one. Maybe I've never seen two people so incredibly in love that it doesn't make any sense at all on paper. But the fact that I even want that is proof that it's possible. Or this career, to be so in alignment that it doesn't feel like work, and that it's purposeful work, and that I'm helping people or doing whatever it is, but it fills my soul. And I have this idea, and it's always been there. And I know I can make an impact. If that is that car, it's driving up. Right now, it's driving up. It stops, rolls down its window and said, "Are you getting in?" I'm right here. What you have always wanted, what you have been asking for, is right here. Windows down. Are you getting in? Are you getting in? And if you hesitate when I ask you that, that is your sign that you need to go within and find out why you're hesitating. What are the fears? What are the doubts? What are the worries? What are the self-imposed limitations? What are the outside expectations of other people that are keeping you from stepping in? Is it because you know when you step in and you go, that when you look in the rearview mirror, there are going to be people and places and things that you've had to leave behind, and that's going to be hard? It is. It absolutely is. But if you keep looking back, you're never going to go forward. And you're also never inviting any of those other people to get in the car with you, to get into their own car and drive. But if we all just stay stuck looking around, and those shepherds like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know. I've never accepted an angel's invitation before. Like, yeah, me neither, me neither, me neither. Well, what are we going to do? I don't know. Let's just do what we always do. Go to our 9 to 5. Go back home to that same empty, loveless marriage. I don't know. Stay with our sheep who just do sheep things. You don't want to live like that. You can be that shepherd that says, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to go find out what that angel's talking about. I'm going to go see what's out there. I have no idea where I'm going, and I don't know if I'm ever going to come back. And if I do, I'm going to have one hell of a story. But otherwise, I hope that I inspire you to also take off and go search for whatever that is. And that, yeah, maybe you don't have this giant angel coming down and saying, hey, but maybe that's me in your face, in this podcast, in your ear, being that version for you and saying, hey, do you know what's out there for you? I've heard these amazing things. And yeah, I'm still very much on that journey for myself. And I love that I'm still very much in it, and I'm not sharing my journey like once I'm already there. Like, hey, look at me all successful and things, and you missed the whole in between. Like, I'm showing you the in between. You're very much seeing the in between. But I'm still running. I am in that car. I am running towards my highest self. And she is right there, and I can feel her in 2026. She's right there. Or I am catching up and being like, yo, we are doing this together. You're not running ahead of me anymore. I have done the work. I have picked up the pace. And I am ready to run, baby. You coming with. Inner child's here. I'm here. Highest self's here. And even my ego's here too, because I'm not leaving my ego behind. We need all of it. But most of all, I am bringing my faith and trust, and that God has been continuously inviting me to step into who he has always created me to be, to follow the mission that planted in my heart and in my soul. Are you willing to accept that invitation? That is the question I will leave you with. But before I close this down, I do want to invite you to do something. And I know some of you are listening while you're driving, so please don't close your eyes. But if you're listening while you're at your desk or while you're doing something, I just encourage you to set something down. Just again, this is like a minute, if even that, to just close your eyes and maybe place your hands on your lap, put your feet on the floor, or just get really grounded in your chair. Whatever you're doing, I just want you to take a breath. Not to fix anything and not to figure anything out, but just to be here, right here, in your body, in your experience, in your present day and life right now. Because somewhere in your life right now, there is an invitation waiting for you. And it's not one that comes with a full explanation or a step-by-step instruction list of how to do this. It's just a quiet invitation to say, come and see. Come and see. And don't be surprised if that invitation doesn't come from the outside. This invitation is to come from within. So I want you to picture your inner child, not as broken, not as something that needs fixing, but as someone holding on to something so precious and waiting to give it to you. Maybe it's joy, maybe it's creativity, maybe it's that $1 million idea. Or maybe it's just the version of you that you haven't felt safe to fully express. And I want you to imagine him or her looking up at you, eyes bright, heart wide open, inviting you to come closer. You don't have to know where this leads. You don't have to understand what you'll find. It's just like those shepherds. You're just being asked to move with faith instead of fear, with wonder instead of hesitation. And so before you open your eyes or you kind of come back to reality, I want you to ask, where is my inner child inviting me to go right now? What do they need me to feel, to see, to believe again? And then ask yourself, what would it look like if I ran towards my inner child with excitement and joy and wonder instead of fear or worry? And if all you're doing is being invited to stop, awesome. Just stop and adore how far you have come, that you were even pressed play, that you even made it this far in this episode. And to notice that that light that has lived inside of you is enough. It has always been enough. And if you stop dimming it and turn that baby full on, it'll absolutely help you see that path. It'll absolutely help you guide the way, and it'll show you that next step. You don't need the full plan to take action. You just need to take one inspired action step at a time and accept one invitation at a time to move forward. You're not behind. You haven't missed your moment. You just need to accept the invitations that are already right there, waiting for you to say yes, waiting for you to step in to that version of you that is just running up ahead of you, waiting for you to catch up. So, are you ready to run? So I don't know about you, but I am. 2026, feel that very much in the energy now. And I hope that you feel that too, and that you bring your inner child along for the ride. And giddy up. So use these next few weeks before we officially turn that calendar over, and allow yourself to accept the invitation to step into something new, to step into new energy, a new chapter, a new opportunity, new relationship, a new version of you, because you're ready and you've been invited. All right, once again, thank you for pressing play. Thank you for hanging with me. This is your invitation. Until next week.